Journey to the French Macaron. What kind of dessert on earth has feet? Yes, it's the macaron, or what Americans call the French macaroon. Macaron is this almond meringue cookie sandwich with filling that is about 1.5 inches in diameter and 1 inch high. The cookie part is very difficult to make, so that's why it's very expensive. One cookie can cost you $2 to $4. The price aside, I fell in love with its delicate look, taste, and texture the moment I tried it first in France 9 years ago. Aspired to learn to bake but hadn't got a chance to do so, I set it as the ultimatum of my baking accomplishment. I have always wanted to bake ever since I can remember. All I looked forward to in a year was to watch my mom making my birthday cake in December. I would be sitting as silent and still as a wax next to her at the kitchen counter, concentrating as she transferred the baking mix into whipped butter. The finished cake will be sitting on a stand for a few days before I get to savor it in my birthday party. Sometimes I just couldn't resist. Every year since I could talk, I always asked my mom, "May I help you?" She would say, "Yes, please. Please help stay away from me." Despite her love expressed through the cakes she baked, she never got over her fear that I wasn't mature enough to bake safely. 19 years I waited until I came to college and decided that I would bake my own cakes and my own macaron. I partnered with a dorm mate who shared the same interest to buy baking equipment and learn baking together. I started from my mom's advice by baking basic recipes like cookies and cupcakes from baking mixes. I took baking pretty seriously. I read and watched as many baking related things that I could possibly find. My first masterpiece was a blueberry cheesecake that I decided to bake to thank my friends at MIT for such a warm welcome when I visited them during sophomore Thanksgivings. Since then, I baked whenever I had a short break, which was mostly after project due dates or exams. Concoctions follow: pumpkin pie, checkerboard cakes, matcha brownies, churrons, and so on. Still, when I go home, I could take no part in Mom's baking. I was still asked to help staying away. She did though, seeing the photo of the cheesecake I posted on Facebook, asked for the recipe. Even though I tried making many recipes, I never got the courage to make the macaron. I saw my mom try making them after our France trip and failed so many times that she finally gave up. Even a baker with 20 years of experience like her couldn't do it. How could an amateur like me? Then one day in senior winter, I saw a friend posted a photo of the macaron he made. Finally knowing someone who accomplished this feat, I ardently inquired him about it. He gave me what he called a foolproof recipe. After 2 years of apprenticeship, I decided it's time I take on this challenge. Right after my last final, I set out to shop for ingredients to make the macaron the next day. The ingredients for the cookies were simple: icing sugar, egg whites, almond flour, cream of tartar, white sugar, and salt. Then comes the first snag. The recipe requires sifting almond flour, icing, and salt, but almond flour is not like all-purpose flour. It is full of lumps. I didn't want to throw away 2/3 of my almond flour, so I painstakingly pressed the dry ingredients through the sieve using a spoon. That took at least an hour. The next hurdle, also the trickiest, is when you mix the sifted dry ingredients with the whipped egg white sugar mixture. You need to fold it by hand until it has the right texture. And we're talking about 60 to 75 turns of the spatula. Under mix, then the macarons will be lumpy and cracked. Over mix, then the macarons will be flat and won't have feet, which is the mark of a well-made macaron. I recalled every macaron mixing video I watched to determine the right time to stop. And you know what? When I transferred the mixture to the piping bag, it kept dripping. No recipe told me that. Even after you piped it on the parchment paper lined baking sheet, you need to leave it long enough until the cookie mixture dries off. Otherwise, your macaron won't have feet. Oh, feet, feet, feet. As I put the cookies into the oven, I texted my macaron baker friend to help me pray. 20 minutes wasn't too long to wait. When the timer rang, my hands shook as I pulled the oven open to look at what happened. There they are, standing with feet, the first macarons I made in my life, and they are successful. My dream has just come true. After that, I baked the macarons a few more times, once a pistachio macaron made from pistachio flour instead of almond flour, but not so often because it takes strenuous amount of time and energy. Not all of the attempts succeeded, though. There was once that I forgot to text my friend to help me pray, and here was what turned out. Since I achieved baking the macaron, I pretty much bake to order because I am confident that I can bake anything. I bake for birthdays and parties and gifts. Friends ask me to teach them how to bake. Baking brought me bonding, making my life at Stanford as warm as the oven that produces the heavenly delicacies. The next time I went home, my mom, seeing that I have mastered baking past her level without setting any kitchen on fire, finally let me set hands on her kitchen counter. From then on, my birthday party has turned into a dessert extravaganza. Every Thanksgiving's break, my mom will ask me, "Please come home as soon as you can for the winter break. I need you to help me."